I actually came into motorsport purely by accident. We could have stayed in Scotland and got double the trophies, triple the trophies, but we thought, no, we'll go against the tougher teams, more experienced drivers, bigger budgets, but I'll gain more experience, I'll be a better driver from it.
He's always been somebody that's gone up on a steady pace. He's never gone up and plateaued. It's always improved. He got to a stage in 2012, I think he won every race he entered, and he said he would rather fight in the top 10 or top 15 in the British Championship than collect trophies every weekend in Scotland.
When I saw him last year, it's quite unbelievable as a parent watching a child of 16 go around the track like that at the speed that they go at. I've never worried about it. This is a weird thing. A lot of people have asked me, do you ever get why I don't?
America is where I really want to go. Something like the Indy 500 or racing Le Mans cars, prototype cars. That is an achievable route. I'd say I'm a lot more hungrier than the other drivers, because every lap I did in the car, it was like, I never knew if it was going to be like my last lap in it sort of thing. So I think I made the most of every time I'm out in the car, I say I make the most of it. Even when it's going bad, I'm doing what I love doing. I'm very fond of rugby, but obviously I can't play rugby in case I get injured. But I say that yeah, it's a sacrifice, but it's pretty irrelevant because I get to drive a racing car, which is my main thing. My goal is to make a living out of driving a racing car, as simple as that.
He has that drive because nothing's been handed to him on a plate. It hurts him as much, the financial side, which is something he shouldn't have been worrying about since he was 11 years onwards, but he worries about the finances, what it costs us as a family, and that's something I don't like. I hate the fact that he, on the top of everything else, he worries so much about the money side of it.
Was there ever a point that you thought, hang on a minute, I might never race again?
Most years, to be honest.
Michael Macpherson is a rising star in motorsport and aspires to race in the United States. However, due to circumstances beyond his control, he has not completed a season of racing in 2 of the last 3 years after leaving karts and stepping into Formula Ford.
The financial side of motorsport is the one massive downside to it. As a lot of people, that is why they stopped their dream to get somewhere in motorsport, is just down to the massive cost of it. Yeah, obviously there's not much I can do. I'm still in school. I've got 2 part-time jobs, but obviously that doesn't begin to pay off or pay for what we're doing. So, like a lot of people, actually, I hate talking about it because you just feel like you're banging on, oh, we don't have the budget. Whereas a lot of people say it, but they're driving with no sponsors on in a Formula 3 car, fully budgeted. Like when I say we don't have the budget, the finances, we really don't. As has been proven when we've not been racing for a year, sort of thing, and just scraping through years.
You're 17 years old and you're not racing. Did that not ever concern you more than previous times, you thought?
To be honest, I think we all kept quite calm about it. When I say all, I mean me, my dad, my mum, people around us, because I moved up into Formula Ford quite early. I moved up into cars relatively early, so compared to the drivers around us on the same level, I kind of had 2 years. I was kind of 2 years younger than them, 3 years younger than them, and we'd kind of done 2 years of progress in one season. So I think we kind of knew that if the chance arose, even in a year's time, to get back out in the car, we'd take off from where we left off. We weren't going to have gone back to the start, sort of thing. So I don't think it was too much of a concern. The concern was, will we be back out?
My job involved a lot of financial commitment this year, so I knew I wasn't going to be in a position to help. It was Michael's hires this year in school. I can look back in hindsight and think, yeah, I can see why it wouldn't have been the best year to try and have him racing in the National. But as I've said before, he never spat the dummy out. He never got upset. He never said, oh, it's not fair, woe is me. He's always taken the attitude, well, there's plenty of kids can't even race at our local track through finances, so I can't complain that I can't race in the British Championship.
The fact of the matter was that we didn't have the money to help him this year. We couldn't have. It was just going to be too much for him to start the season and proceed to do it all. We just couldn't do it.
We did think, would he ever get back out in a car? And there was plenty of times when I thought, no, it's just not going to happen. It's just beyond us.
To be honest, I think obviously my dad wasn't as upset as I was. It was a long year. The start of last year, I think we were all very down, very, very down. Whereas like we were seeing people getting ready for the year, winter testing, first races of the year, and we were just kind of sitting at home trying to just not have anything to do with it, not watch like the live timing and everything.
As he could not race, Michael was suffering, but he didn't show it. Mike and Caroline were always trying to provide opportunities for him to race, but with the figures involved, this was not a simple task.
I think, like any parent, you just want to give your kid the best shot, and that's what we'd like to be able to do, but there comes a point where sometimes we just can't fund it, and that's the really hard knock. That's really hard.
To do the national championship, we would need a budget of £45,000–50,000 to cover most of our costs, and that's not including really accident damage or possible engine rebuilds. So that's the sort of budget you would need. Although ironically, the championship that was the Formula 4 championship, which was supposed to supersede the old Formula Ford, a budget for that nowadays £250,000–275,000, which is ludicrous.
My mum's going through as many sacrifices as my dad is. Like they're both doing the same thing for me. My mum's very busy. She's for most years she's had 2 jobs to try and help me race them. My dad works like endless hours, and then there's my wee brother as well. He's got hobbies, commitments as well.
He's at a level now that we cannot. As a self-employed person, I just do not earn the sort of money, and I cannot commit the sort of money that Michael would need at this level. We can stumble through. Like a lot of drivers, we've had various half promises of sponsorship which hasn't materialised. But it is so difficult for Michael to make the next jump up from where he is just now in Formula Ford. He would either need to go down the British GT route, or what he would prefer to do is carry on the single-seater ladder, but over in America. But both of those would require £100,000–200,000, which for a family like us is quite literally lottery money.
With a bigger budget, bigger sponsors, I think there's no reason why we couldn't make it all the way. Without having that money in the first place, it's hard to actually source big sponsors. to get that massive chunk of money you actually need just to get out at the start of the season. So yeah, that is the one thing about motorsport which I very, very much dislike. Up. Good girl. Right, lie down. Lie down.
Michael's racing career had stalled and he was forced to spend a year at home. He had to concentrate more on his schoolwork while in a vital year of exams. However, a couple of weeks after receiving his results, Michael had a week to remember.
I kind of treat my schoolwork the same as I treat racing. I hate doing badly.
There would be another race that had passed, another race that passed, and Michael was just, you could tell he was really disappointed. But he wouldn't ever say that to us, I know that. But it was really hard, and I think Mike, as his dad, found it really hard because he felt he let him down because we weren't able to fund it ourselves.
He didn't make any fuss about it. I knew he was hurting. I knew he was desperately needing to go out. He'd proven at the end of the second half of last year that he was a promising driver. As I say, like so many are, but as I say, we believe he has the whole package.
So to be able to be in a position towards the end, just to do something was great.
I had a really rubbish week at school. I just couldn't believe it. Everything just turned around. I wouldn't give it a second thought driving around a racetrack at 120 mile an hour, but suddenly driving someone else's car at 30 mile an hour becomes like more of a nervous thing. But yeah, as you said, I passed my driving test, as I'm sure you're about to bring up, second time lucky. Well, I think it was looking back at it now, I think it's quite funny. Like, I was raging when I failed, because I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to pay to do it again. That's the first thing I thought. I couldn't believe it, but Jensen Button passed his second time. I think a lot of F1 drivers and drivers at that level pass second time, so I'll say that.
He doesn't have a car. We won't be buying him a car. As I like to say to Michael, he's probably had a couple of Ferraris and Porsches out of us already with what we've spent on motorsport.
So I can't remember the day. That was a very, very good day. So yeah, I passed my driving test mid-morning. Obviously phoned my mum and dad, told them I passed, that was great. And then I thought, it's a great day. It's not getting much better. We'll leave it there.
I worry about that day when he will go off with his own car. Yet, paradoxically, I'll stand at the top of Paddock Hill Bend at Brands Hatch and I'll watch 3 abreast going into Paddock Hill at 120 miles an hour. And it's just a surreal thing.
My mum phoned and started talking about racing. I thought, it was weird hearing this from my mum, not my dad, because usually any big decision, it's always my dad that's told me, just because it's him that made the phone calls and stuff. Like, my mum's been as involved, but it's always been my dad's made like the phone calls and everything. So my mum phoned me and went, well, your dad wanted me to tell you this time. So I started speaking, and the more and more she said, I think the more I smiled. Mum basically told me that I was going to be out in a couple of weeks doing the last round of the Scottish Championship at Knock Hill. We've also managed to get something sorted so that I'll be doing the Formula Ford Festival 2 weeks after that. So yeah, it was an unbelievable day. I don't think I've ever been that happy before.
Michael would not be getting a road car anytime soon, but more importantly, he got the opportunity to get back in his beloved racing car to get his motor racing career back on track.
How's it going, Sandy? Yeah. How's it going? Right, Neil. Right, Josh. Yeah. Nice to meet you, Michael. Bring my sofa with me. Going back into the garage the first time, it was like, I was expecting to go in and it'd be like I'd been away for a year, but I walked back in, it was just normal. I was basically treating the whole race weekend as a 2-day test. I wasn't thinking, right, we've got qualifying and racing on Sunday. I was just kind of going into, this is what I'm saying, I wasn't really thinking that. My dad was saying, just treat it as like a 2-day test, like just getting back into it, no pressure, see where we end up. And on the outside, that is what I kept trying to say to myself, but really I was thinking that I want to try and get a result here, like make a good comeback. I realised how much I'd grown. I got in and suddenly my knees were up here and my arms were back here. So yeah, it was kind of a mad panic. 15 minutes before I was about to go out on the track, and we're like, geez, I actually don't fit in the car.
Good to be back out. Good to be back out. It'll take me a while to get back up to pace. Or maybe not.
On the Saturday, there was 3 50-minute test sessions. For the last session, we were fastest. We were 2 tenths up on anyone, which doesn't sound much, but when these guys have been out all year and 3 years before, and we've been out for half an hour and we've just gone faster than them, that was like a race win almost. It was like, that was pretty unthinkable at the time.
Despite not racing a car for 11 months, Michael still managed to top the time charts at his first event back, but a tougher test was ahead at the Formula Ford Festival.
I think even after a year out, Michael had the ability to be certainly fighting in the top 10. I think he has that talent, he has that head on him, a very mature head for his age. You're good enough, okay? Just get through, okay?
Graham Brunton owns the team said last year that if we made it into the semi-final, like actually just made it onto the grid, it would be a massive achievement. He said not many drivers in their first year go that far. And then when we were sitting 9th in the main final, that was kind of unthinkable at the time. So yeah, going to this year, we finished Saturday, and yeah, I made it through the day, made it through the heat. But yeah, there wasn't excitement the year before where I was genuinely really quick.
Johnny Adam, current British GT champion, sat down with Michael, looked over his camera footage for a few laps, said nothing. He turned to Michael and said, "You're looking for me to say something?" And Michael said, "Yeah, it'd be great if you could show me where I'm going wrong or where I could gain some time." And Johnny Adam just smiled at him and said, "You're doing everything right. The pace just isn't in the car."
Michael did not make the final after having to change engines on Friday night, and due to another fault not found until returning home, he did not have the pace in the car. However, he was back racing and his dreams were coming alive again.
Obviously, I was gutted about how it was going, but then after a whole year I was back driving a racing car, so it was like the two extremes. I was absolutely gutted about how it was going, but then I was still loving every lap of driving the car. Like, as I said, it's all I want to do.
It wasn't the fairy tale comeback Michael would have hoped for. However, after the brakes were slammed in his racing career, he will be encouraged that he was able to pick up from where he left off. That, along with his talent and personality, and all the attributes required to be successful in motorsport, has not gone unnoticed.
There's interest from a few teams down south. Kevin Mills Racing to name one, Cliff Dempsey Racing to name another. And yeah, we're looking at those options. Graham Brunton Racing have been very, very good to me. Purely the only reason I was on track was because Graham managed to get a car for me to use for free. Without that, I wouldn't have been racing. I wouldn't have been out last year. So yeah, other than the manager of Graham Brunton Racing, he's a friend. Graham Brunton bought his first racing car off my dad. So my dad actually kind of fueled Graham's passion for it, if you like. So no, he's a friend. So yeah, no matter what happens, you'll still be a friend. But yeah, we're just kind of looking into options at the moment. We're not too sure. Nothing set in stone. No big ideas. Just kind of looking at everything and seeing. We'll see what happens.